over the 2019 question for methods right now in this video. So I'll try to keep them as short as I can. I'm sure it will go long anyways. 3 things. There's 2 or 3 more, but these are the 3 things that I think can run us. These are what will take points away from you in your code. If you have any extra code that has effects, so if you have a system out print and it's just saying, "Hi, how are you doing today?" you will lose a point if it does not deal with your program. Or if it changes your code in any way. Something, now obviously we may want to change our code as we write it, but if there's some extra code not related to the problem that is going to affect or would output to the user something, they will take away a point for that. Second thing is not declaring a variable. Now, this is just as simple as if we just said x equals 2, remember we got to tell Java what are we dealing with. So in this case, it's an int. So that's going to be an integer. If instead I had double, this would change that 2 into 2.0, right? That's, we have that overloading. And then a void method returning a value. So remember, if you type, public void, then make sure that it is void. Don't have it return something it's not. So let's go ahead and try to dig in. So this is the 2019. Now, what I'm going to suggest before you watch the rest of this video, at least up until the point where I start working on the problem, go ahead and try to do this problem on your own. Try to at least lay out a breakdown of what are the things that you need to get done, and then go from there. So here, AP calendar class contains methods used to calculate information about a calendar. You will write 2 methods of the class, okay? Now, they're not going to give us a bunch of code here. They're just going to roughly tell us what this thing can do. So this class, it returns true if the leap year returns true if year is a leap year and false otherwise, right? So leap year is those years that we have that extra day in February. So we don't have to really worry too much about the math behind that right now. We just got to write a method. And it looks like 2 methods throughout this that are going to add into this class. So it looks like we have one thing that's already made for us. It's called is a leap year. It takes an integer, so we put in some sort of year, and it returns true. So it's a Boolean, so it returns true if it's a leap year, false if otherwise. Okay? Let's check this next one. Returns the number of leap years between year 1 and year 2, inclusive. Remember, that just means that it includes all of those. So if we do, 2010 to 2012, that's going to be 2010, 2011, and 2012. Which of those are leap years? And the precondition is, right, we're just saying that we're not going to have negative years, and that year 1 is greater. Year 1's the smallest one, right? Year 2 is the biggest. So that is a public static integer. So we're going to get an integer out of this. So number of leap years. So you put in your 2 years, to be implemented in part A. So that's something that we're going to have to work on. Next bit here, returns the value representing. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking through the code that they have to see what do they already have made and what are the things that I'm going to have to make. So little things like this will pop up to be implemented in part A. So already I'm in the back of my head trying to think, how do I figure out the number of leap years going on here? Let's see, this one turns the value representing the day of the week for the first day of the year, where 0 denotes a Sunday, 1 denotes a Monday, and 6 denotes a Saturday. And then down here, implementation not shown, to be implemented in part B. So this is talking about, specific days of the week. This one is only talking about years. So already, and you can sort of see, this is part A. So part A seems to only need this stuff up here. This other stuff seems to be getting used for part B. So let's go ahead and jump into part A. There may be instance variable constructors and other methods not shown. Basically, anything that you've written so far in Java, you can write here. So let's check A. So write the static method number of leap years. Sweet, which returns the number of leap years between year 1, year 2. So in order to calculate this value, a helper method has been provided for you. Sweet. So we don't have to write everything from scratch. We just got to write a little bit. Is leap year, right? We just read about that. Returns true if the year is a leap year and false if it's not. So the number of leap years. So we want to sort of count up how many times this thing's true. Because if it's true, these are just, what I'm thinking through. If it's true, then that means it's a leap year. So that's 1. And then we just start counting in that range to see how many. Complete method number of leap years below. You must use is leap year appropriately to receive full credit. So we got to make sure we use everything to get our full credit. So returns numbers, preconditions, sweet. And look, there I started out for us. Public static integer number of years. There we go. I'll just do that for us. Make it a little bit prettier. And coding in Word. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go ahead and want to just initialize a variable that's going to hold this counting that we're doing, right? And because I'm just counting years, you can think through what kind of type are we going to use? Well, we don't need a Boolean. Obviously, we're counting. Counting, we're going to deal with either ints or doubles. In this case, because we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, you're telling me a discrete amount. We're going to use int. I will ignore some of the autocorrects that Word's going to do because it thinks that I'm trying to type an essay. And then I'm going to follow some of their naming conventions. So I'm going to do just name this count. You don't have to, obviously. And we'll just start that at 0. Now, again, that's just to help us keep track of what's going on. Now, my next thing, and remember, we can always break this down too. So we want to start a count of the years. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And then here, we want to check through the years to see if they're leap years. And additionally, if they are leap years, we want to add to the count, right? And then at the very end, just like it says here, returns the number of leap years. So then we want to return number of leap years. So let me do this and okay, 16. There we go. Okay. These are a few things that we're gonna try out. So now that I started my count, the next thing I'm gonna want to do is to start checking the years. Now, if I want to start, going year by year by year by year, we're going through a series of things. So that makes me start thinking loops. Remember, a loop is a way for us to go through a set of values. So I'm going to use a for loop here because I know the values that I want to look at. So for, remember we got to initialize. Now we could just, we could say we might be using year too much, but I'm going to go with it. If year is equal to year 1. Now remember, year 1 is a variable that already is going to be tossed in here, right? Year 1 is an integer. So we're starting with, we're starting point, right? The for loop, that's our starting point. And as long as year is less than or equal to year two, because remember we're going from year 1 to year 2. Then take year and go to the, let's see, go to the next one. Let's do, that's going to mess up a lot of stuff, so actually let's not bother with it. We'll just bear with it for right now. Okay. So now I want to figure out what's going to go on inside here. Every year I go through, I'm going to do one simple thing. I'm going to check if it's a leap year, right? Now they already wrote a method for us that checks if it's a leap year. So all we got to check is if is a leap year, is leap year of year. And I see here that I've named my variable year. And so there's a lot of years going on. Let's go ahead and remember, you can name your variable whatever you want. I'm going to name it y, so it just looks a little bit different as we write this. Remember, again, whatever's inside here, if it's true, then the if statement runs. So in this case, is a leap year returns true if that year that it's checking is a leap year. So I'll, again, make my for loop. And every time it's a leap year, let's add it to count. Remember, we're starting and we're just counting how many leap years there are. That's what we just did this, so we just added to the count. Return the number of leap years. Well, that's pretty easy because all we have to do is return count, because count here is storing that number. Okay. And remember, when you're typing out your code, if you're going to use code HS or if you write it out, small little capitalization errors like this, they shouldn't bug you on, but always remember to make sure you declare anything that you're using. Okay. So here we've just written a simple little method to go ahead and see how many leap years there are. So let's go ahead and scroll into, looks like it squeezed part B down here. Write the static method day of the week. Okay, so now this is our second part we're doing, which returns the integer value representing the day of the week for a given date. Okay, so we're trying to then figure out, is it a Monday? Is it a Tuesday? Is it a Wednesday? So if you told me January 4th, 1943, what day of the week was that? Was that a Tuesday? Was it a Monday? Let's see, as another example, right? So they're telling us here that if you did like January 5th would return 6th, because it was on a Saturday. Remember, this returns a number between 0, denotes Sunday, and 6, which is Saturday. So they're starting the week on Sunday. And so we're going to have to look at this. In order to calculate this value, 2 helper methods. So you see what they're doing. Each time, they're not having us write this whole class. They're not having us write a huge amount of methods. They're giving us a bunch of methods for us to use to then solve our problem. So that whatever they give you is going to help you with solving the problem. So first day of the year. Okay, returns an integer value representing the day of the week for the first day of the year. Okay, so perfect. So here, for example, since 2019 began on a Tuesday, first day of the year 2019 returns 2. 2 would be for Tuesday. So, sweet. So what we're going to get out of that is we can use that to figure out what day of the week the year started on. And then the next thing looks like we have day of year returns n, where month, day, and year specify the nth day of the year for the first day of the year. January 1st, the value 1 is returned. Okay, so the first day is 1. December 31st would be 365. Or in this case, March 1st is 60 days because it's not a leap year. But 2016 was a leap year, so it returned 61 for that extra day in February. So let's go ahead and this got all sort of disoriented. But the key part here of you must use those two methods they just gave you to get full credit. So let's check what we got. Perfect. Let's go ahead and, as always, get our... So we have a public static integer. Remember, we just want to get that integer back. So let's start out by finding out that first day of the year. Okay. So remember, we always want to declare. And those days, remember, first day of the year. If you need to, you always just check back on your test. First day of the year returns the integer value. And so does day of year. So these all should be ints. Integer, and we'll do first day. I don't know. We'll go with that for right now. So that's for first day of year. Of whatever year we're looking at. Right, so we're checking out, we're introducing this here. Again, the reason we want to do this, one, we're sort of required to check both of them, but if you know what the first day of the year is, if it's a Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or whatever, then if you know the number of days since then, you could count that, right? So if I told you January 1st was a Monday, what's January 3rd? Okay, well, that's 2 days later. So you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. January 3rd would be a Wednesday. So we got to take that starting point and then count the days past it to get us to whatever day that is. So we just talked about counting past it. N is a very mathy, computer sciencey thing of just keeping track of what day we're counting to. We could change this to first day to end day if you wanted. The day that we're ending. Again, you can name your naming conventions, totally up to you, as long as it's clear what you're doing. So what I want to do here is I want to check the day of year, right? And we're passing it month, day, and that same year. This is going to pull out and tell us how many days from the beginning of that year is it. So next up, we now actually need to figure out what day of the week it is. So there's something here that I'm going to do. We want to know what day of the week, and the day of the weeks are represented in numbers. So I'm going to, let's see, how we want to name it. So I don't name it after everything. Let's do day of the week. Now we're looking at these two. So if we take whatever the first day is, if you add to that first day, right? So if your first day was a Tuesday, then it would be a 2. If you add to that, however many days have passed, so that would be our maybe end day is not that. Maybe we can change it to days. Again, this is just so that I can be clear for my own head in the naming convention. So you go from the first day, and then you go all the way up to that last day. Now, we want to make sure that we're not double counting. So we have this -1 here. This is going to give us some big number. Now, right, if our first day was a Tuesday, that's 2. Now, if I go 2 days later, well, now that's going to be, how many days is it later? That's 2 days, that's 4. That's not helping us out here, but how many days of the week are there? Well, there's 7. So if we mod 7 this whole thing, then what happens if this amount here is divisible by 7, meaning it's a Sunday? If it's a Sunday, then it's going to be 0. So 7, if it goes into anything, means it's a Sunday. It's going to return a 0. If it returns 1 left over, right, mod's telling you how many is left over, then it's going to be a Monday. So it's telling us already what that is there. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and return that day of week. And that should return, oh, yeah, of course I need my semicolons there. That should return that value that we need, that 0 through 6. Now again, on your AP exam, they're giving you, I mean, for a question like this, they're giving you only, I believe, about 20 minutes. I think it's 25, maybe, I think it's about 25 minutes for the method question, and then about 10 to 15 minutes for the array question. So they're really focusing on this method question, which will probably be a lot like this part A. They're changing things around, but they're not, laying it out. So as the days go on, I'm going to keep uploading more examples for the other method ones and for the arrays. But again, we're just working through slowly at a time. Again, there's not a lot of code going on here. Even when we jump down to B, not a lot of code here. If you find yourself writing like an entire page of code, you might be on the, off on the wrong track. And also think about it that they're having to condense this test, and they're condensing it for you guys to take in 45 minutes. That is not a lot of time. And so they're not going to make these questions so long and hard that they can't be done in that time.